one of them unseen. A calabash of dreams, to drink when truth fades. A name written in shadow, to be spoken only once, at the end. Then the spirit of the oracle stepped forward one last time. Your village will call you stranger. Your enemies will call you demon. The world will call you king. But we call you seer of the split path. And with that he turned, and walked into the night. Some children are raised by mothers, others by fire. And when fire teaches you to see, your footsteps become prophecy. Nady was no longer lost. He had become the echo of a god, and the world would soon tremble at his silence. He who sees through two eyes walks two paths, one in the world of men, the other through the spirit's gate. And when such a man rises, even the sky must shift to make space for him. In the capital city of Iktan, a new name had begun to circle in whispers. Not in the news, not on radio, but in corridors of wealth, in shrines of kings, and behind locked boardrooms. He appeared at auctions no one was invited to. He bought farmlands others had dismissed. He negotiated without speaking. His emissaries wore masks. His businesses grew like storms. No one saw his face. No one knew his voice. But those who met him never questioned him again. His money came from places no one could trace. He discovered oil in forgotten fields. He bought land in drought-ridden areas, only for rain to fall weeks later. He sold information to governments before disasters occurred. Information he had seen long before they did. His investments were perfectly timed. Banks feared him. Ministers needed him. Chiefs blessed him. But no one could find him. He never stayed in one place. He used over 17 identities across 3 countries. He built orphanages, clinics, and burial grounds, always anonymously. In a private vault beneath an abandoned cathedral, he kept the 6 masks from the Shrine of Sight. He wore each depending on the room he entered. The merchant, when dealing with tycoons. The healer, when visiting the poor. The fool, to disarm enemies. The ghost, to learn secrets. The warrior, to handle betrayal. The shadow, always. But none ever saw the second head. It remained hidden under his robes, listening, calculating, watching for signs. At night, he would remove his mask and speak softly to himself, holding conversations between both heads. The world thought he was a genius. They didn't know he was a vessel. 14 years had passed. The village of Umudike was dying. The river had dried. The crops failed. Young people left. The land was bare. And then one day trucks arrived. Engineers, surveyors, machines. They said a rich man had purchased the surrounding land and was building a renewable energy facility, a water system, and a spiritual heritage center. The villagers danced. Even the elders, now old and bent with regret, offered sacrifices of thanksgiving. They never asked who the buyer was. They never suspected. Dressed in a black robe, hooded, flanked by silent guards and 2 old spiritualists, he entered the village square under moonlight. The people gathered. The chief, now half-blind, came forward. You who have remembered us in our suffering, may the ancestors lift your name. Nady said nothing. He raised his hand. A sealed calabash was placed before the people. Inside gold, maps, deeds, salt, scroll. The chief read the scroll aloud. Let no child of Umudike suffer thirst again. Let the land yield. Let those rejected be restored. Cheers, applause, tears. But none noticed when the stranger turned toward the old hut near the edge of the bush. His second head twitched. He remembered everything. The ceremony ended. People feasted. But Nady did not eat. He walked quietly through the shadows until he reached the compound where an elderly woman sat alone. spinning thread. Beak. His mother. Wrinkled. Weary. Silent. She did not recognize him. But as he stepped forward, her eyes widened. Then she froze. His hood fell slightly. The second head, calm, glowing faintly, stared at her. She gasped. No, it can't be. He spoke for the first time. I forgive you. But I will never forget you. She fell to her knees. Tears flowed. Her voice broke. I was afraid. I didn't know. He stepped back. You did what they taught you. But I have learned what they could not teach me. In silence he returned. In power he remained unseen. But in every corner of the land, his shadow grew roots. From the gold mines of Oroma, to the oil-rich fields of Kibera, from foreign embassies to sacred groves, rumors spread. They said, he spoke to computers without touching them. He predicted floods and famines a year before they arrived. He met with spirits every new moon. He never blinked. And behind every powerful movement, there was a silent sponsor with 2 signatures on every check. One in ink, one in ash. But he was never seen. In marketplaces, old women would say, if you hear drums at night but see no dancers, the oracle walks among us. While the nation watched its fragile cities crumble under corruption and chaos, deep within a carved canyon once abandoned by slave traders, Nadi built a hidden city. A city with solar grids powered by ancestral fire codes, underground libraries of sacred knowledge, orphanages where rejected children were trained in prophecy, hospitals run by masked doctors who spoke only in proverbs. No outsider knew the entrance. No drone ever mapped it. Its people called it Obianwu, the heart of death. Why? Because from death, Nadi had built life. Time passed. One by one, people from Nadi's past came, unaware who they were kneeling before. Chitty, the boy who carried him to the forest, now a poor drunk begging to work in Nadi's palm estate. Chief Yidena, stripped of title, desperate for investment. Ekin, once bold, now silent with cancer, begging for help. They were welcomed, given work, fed. But none recognized the man who wore black. None noticed the second head watching from beneath the veil. Until one day, the old blind Naani, the former seer, was brought to Nadi's council. He sat silently, then smiled. You walk like shadow, but your scent is prophecy. Nadi knelt before him. You were the only one who saw me. They embraced. Tears rolled from the elders' dead eyes. The gods are justified. A drought unlike any in history struck the region. Villages turned to ash. Rivers bled dry. Presidents begged. Other billionaires vanished. Aid failed. But then Nadi acted. From deep beneath his hidden city, he opened 7 underground aquifers, predicted years before. He distributed food through spiritual symbols only his agents understood. He raised a black flag with a golden eye, no name, no brand. It was not just power. It was prophecy in motion. The people began to say, whoever feeds the land speaks with the gods. And in shrines across the continent, Nadi's symbol began to appear beside the old gods, not in worship but in respect. At night, Nadi would sit before a mirror of obsidian. He would speak with his second head, not aloud, not in words, but in pure thought. They debated, they dreamed, they wept, they remembered the forest, the river, the silence. And sometimes they disagreed. We are becoming what we hated, the second head once warned. Power must kneel. No, the first replied. Power must guide. They sat in silence. Then both whispered, let it be done with balance. He came with no name. Rejected, he was forgotten. But from the soil of shame a god took root. not to be worshipped but to awaken. And now, even silence listens when he walks. A man may rise in silence. He may walk with masks and guide the blind. But one day the spirits will call his name, and when they do, he must answer. It began with a whisper. Not in the wind, not in the ears, but in the bones of the earth. Trees began to lean eastward. The rivers shimmered unnaturally. Crows flew in reverse. Nady woke from a vision unlike any other. He stood surrounded by faces from the shrine, but they were not still. They were watching, expecting. "You must return," they said. "It is time." His second head bowed in silence. The voice of the spirits, once distant, now echoed from within. Nady traveled alone.
No guards. No ads.
No power. Only a black staff, carved with symbols known only to the dead. He journeyed back to the Aho forest, the place of his exile, his awakening. But it no longer welcomed him like before. The trees hissed. The roots recoiled. The ground pulsed with judgment. The shrine, once glowing sacred alive, was now cracked, sunken, devoured by ash. Masks lay broken. The throne of fire had collapsed. In its center stood a hole. A portal. Without a word, Nady stepped into it. Whole descent into the void. He fell not downward but inward. Visions flashed. His mother's tears. The villagers' laughter. The moment he chose not to kill. The wealth, the buildings, the masks. The girl he once saw in a dream standing in fire. Then silence. He landed in a place with no sky. Only red earth, black smoke, and voices. Thousands.
Millions.
Crying. Laughing. Mocking. Praying. And then, seer of split path. Oracle of dual sight. The ground opened. A council of spirits emerged. Giants of shadow and light, with no eyes, no mouths. Just presence. They surrounded him. "You have changed the world," the spirit said. "But did you change yourself?" He knelt. "I saw what others feared. I walked where others fled. I healed, I judged, I forgave. You also watched silently as tyrants knelt for profit. You wore masks even among the broken. You created a world that fears, not understands." He was silent. "Speak your truth. Not with words, but with your essence." Then Nady's body began to tremble. His second head rose fully, no longer hidden. Both faces stared at the spirits. He placed his hand on the earth. From his palm flowed memory. His rejection. His forgiveness. His temptation. His restraint. His love for the invisible. His fury at injustice. The earth absorbed it all. Then silence again. One by one, the spirits began to vanish. But before the last one disappeared, it whispered, "You are not God. You are not demon. You are man, burned clean by fire. Go. But leave your masks behind. The world must now know your face." And with that, Nady was lifted. He awoke at dawn outside the shrine, his body whole, but his masks gone. He walked into the village unveiled. This time they saw both heads. They gasped. They wept. They fell to their knees. But Nady shook his head. No more worship. No more fear. Only truth. He built a school of spirit and science, where gifted children could learn without shame. He wrote no books. He gave no speeches. But his life became legend. Studio microphone final narration. Some stories end with crowns. Some with fire. But the rarest stories end with revelation. And the boy with two heads, once cursed, once hidden, became a mirror for all who looked upon him. Not to see him, but to see themselves.